Welcome to the Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs podcast, a place for podcasters to learn what's actually working in the world of podcasting and how to use their podcast to generate consistent leads in their business. I'm your host, Jenny, and I'm so excited you're here. Hey, Savvies. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I cannot believe we're on episode 200. It's crazy to me. I know I've mentioned that in the past several episodes, but yeah, it's just nuts. So in today's episode, we're going to be covering how to take a podcast hiatus. Now, this can be a planned break from your show, like a maternity leave, a sabbatical, a vacation, or even just taking a brief break in between your podcast seasons if you have them. So with podcast breaks come people losing interest or potentially even forgetting that your podcast even exists. So it's really important to have a plan in place during your break so that you can continue to retain your listenership because you don't want people to just fall off the face of the earth. So before we dive into the episode, I did want to share about my 5 mistakes you're probably making with your podcast guide. So we all go into launching our podcast. We're super excited and just ready to make that impact and income with our podcast, but things don't always go as planned. So in this guide, I share the 5 things you're probably doing wrong with your podcast and what you can do to fix them. So you can grab the guide by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneur.com/mistakes, and let's get into the episode. So some tips for taking a hiatus from your show. So first up, you want to let your audience know ahead of time. Laying out the expectations for your time off from your podcast will really help your audience understand what's happening, why it's happening, and how long they can expect to not hear new episodes from you. So they don't think you just randomly fell face the earth with no notice. It's important to do this. You don't have to do it like super far in advance, but maybe 3 episodes before you're taking that break. Just kind of prime them and prep them, let them know all the details so that they know what to expect. Another thing you might want to do when you are on your break is do some reruns of your favorite episodes. So during your break, you obviously don't need to be publishing new episodes, but consider doing some reruns of either your all-time favorites or your audience's favorite episodes so that your feed isn't completely dead to people who happen to stumble upon your podcast during this time. So new listeners, essentially. And you never know, your current listeners may have never heard some of these episodes. So it really doesn't hurt to reshare them on your show. If you do go this route though, just make sure that you're making it known in the beginning that these episodes are replays so that your listeners can decide if they want to listen or not. And they're not just like, wait, I think I've heard this before. You also want to queue up social media posts promoting old episodes to continue to nurture your audience. The worst thing that you can do when you take some time off from your podcast is to stop promoting like 100%, stop promoting at all. And just because you're not sharing new episodes doesn't mean that your social media needs to be dead silent too. Kind of just ramp up those old evergreen episodes. Your audience may have not seen them before. You might have some new followers. It doesn't hurt to continue sharing episodes even when you're not putting out new ones. And then lastly, you want to use your time off wisely. I always advise my clients to use their time between seasons or any other planned break to start working ahead on the next season or the next episodes. Start reaching out to your potential guests, writing and recording your content so that you can get ahead of the game and have enough episodes ready to go before you're even back from your break. Because you don't want to come back and get to the point where you're just like, okay, I have this one episode, but like that's it. And then you're recording on the fly every single week. That's going to lead to burnout, and also it's going to lead to some inconsistency probably. And this will just really relieve some pressure in the event that things get super busy and you don't have time to record your episodes on a weekly basis again, which, side note, you shouldn't do this regardless. You should definitely batch as much as possible to make it easier for yourself. But yeah, I digress. So I want to know, have you ever taken a planned or unplanned break from your podcast before? Let me know on Instagram. My handle is at Jenny SUNESON. Shoot me a DM over there. I'm curious. And also tell me, do you do seasons or not? I personally don't do seasons, but I know a lot of people do. So I'm always curious if people decide to do seasons or not and why they do seasons. So yeah, let me know. Alrighty, that's it for today's episode. I will see you guys in the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher, and leave a review. You can find us at sabbyypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com and on Facebook at Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs and Instagram at Savvy Podcasting. Make sure to join our free Facebook community for podcasters by going to
savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/community and join in on the exclusive community just for Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs listeners. I'll see you there.